Learning about storytelling by analyzing the films that came before us is our favorite way to improve as storytellers ourselves. Today we're going to be looking at another trope in storytelling, movies that are stories, otherwise known as a frame narrative.
Doesn't sound too bad. I'll try and stay awake.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Very nice.
This kind of narration can feel lazy, with the filmmakers telling portions of the story to their audience instead of showing. In poor examples, the writers use this device as a crutch to tell the audience important information and to keep the story moving. In good examples, the writers use it to enhance the already good story and add to the telling of it. We're going to be looking at 3 of the better uses of this idea in films, starting with The Princess Bride. The Princess Bride begins with a grandfather visiting his sick grandson. This frame narrative works so well because it sets the tone for the film. This is a fantasy adventure where we see big swings from dire circumstances to ridiculous events, punctuated by comedy throughout the entirety of the film.
Is there any sports in it?
Are you kidding? Fencing, fighting, torture.
The grandfather isn't trying to convince us that this is real. He's trying to tell a story to a kid. And the filmmakers use this dynamic to enhance the story by placing these interactions in key points throughout the story.
Hold it, hold it. What is this? Are you trying to trick me? And where's the sports? Is this a kissing book?
Initially, the kid is annoyed by his grandfather, complaining to his mom, but then begrudgingly allows his grandfather to read him the story, but only after the promise of a thrilling story. We are occasionally taken back to the kid's bedroom, where the kid becomes more and more invested in the story, including the romance, which he wanted to skip in the beginning.
I'm explaining to you because you look nervous.
I wasn't nervous. Well, maybe I was a little bit concerned, but that's not the same thing.
He becomes so wrapped up in the story, he demands to know how the villain is defeated. His grandfather decides that they should stop, but the kid convinces him to go on. Each return to the bedroom is handled with humor, charm, and perfect timing.
Since the invention of the kiss, there have been 5 kisses that were rated the most passionate, the most pure. This one left them all behind. The end.
And now we move on to Robin Hood, the Disney animated one. Robin Hood's narrator happens to be a minstrel who starts the story by singing a song, setting a lighthearted tone for the film. The charming southern rooster sets up the animal kingdom where the story will take place, as well as our main characters.
Oh, incidentally, I'm Alan Adale, a minstrel. Oh, that's an early day folk singer. And my job is to tell it like it is, or was, or whatever.
The rooster in this case doesn't just exist outside the story, but is a character in the story. He pops up 3 times throughout the story, first to explain the character's main problem and introduce the sheriff.
Well, even though Prince John offered a huge reward for the capture of Robin Hood, that elusive rogue kept right on robbing the rich to feed the poor. Uh-oh, here comes old Bad News himself, the Honorable Sheriff of Nottingham.
He also shows up to lament their troubles with a song as he sits in prison with the rest of Nottingham.
Yep, I'm in here too. Nottingham was in deep trouble.
The rooster pushes the narrative along and in the climax is involved in the jailbreak and stealing the money. And of course he ushers us into the final scene, putting a bow on this charming retelling of Robin Hood.
Say, we better get over to the church. Sounds like somebody's getting hitched.
And now we move on to the Shawshank Redemption. This one isn't like the other films we've discussed today. This one doesn't start with the narrator. It starts with our main character and the reason he is in Shawshank. The film starts with the trial of Andy Dufresne and his conviction of his murder of his wife.
When they arrived, he went up to the house and murdered them.
No, I was sobering up. I got back in the car and I drove home to sleep it off.
After the trial, we get to our narrator, Red, with his own trial. And just like Andy's, it was rigged from the start. Red is our window into the world of Shawshank. He tells us the rules, he tells us how it works, especially when it comes to the first day for the new guys in the prison.
Andy came to Shawshank Prison in early 1947 for murdering his wife.
Andy is not like the other guys, and Red makes sure to let you know it. When it comes to the "I'm not like the others" trope, it's much better when someone else says it. Red's thoughts on Andy are the parent that holds your hand throughout the film, keeping you in the know about things that are important.
If I were you, I'd grow eyes in the back of my head.
Thanks for the advice.
Well, that's free.
However, this is different from the other two films we've mentioned. This film allows Red to narrate Andy's life for a very specific reason, because Red and Andy became the best of friends. And just like with most speeches, it's your best friend that gives it.
I hope to see my friend and shake his hand. I hope the Pacific is as blue as it has been in my dreams.
Hopefully now you can see how using a story within your story can enhance the story by allowing you to set up things like tone, characters, and plot. And it's something that many people have employed, from Shakespeare to Stephen King. So try it in your next story and see where it gets you.
See? Didn't I tell you she'd never marry that rotten Humperdinck?
Yes, you're very smart. Shut up.